Daddy! The word detonated across Seoul Incheon International Airport's VIP terminal like a grenade in a cathedral. 6-year-old twins, Jamaican blood and Caribbean fire, sprinted toward a man whose neck tattoo had ended wars and called the Korean Mafia king Daddy. Before we dive into this story, subscribe to Korean Dynasty Stories and comment where you're watching from. Jamaica? Korea? Somewhere in between? My friend said I'd never hit 1,000 subscribers with stories this wild. Let's prove her wrong together. Seoul Incheon International Airport, 11 p.m. Winter storm warnings blinked red across departure screens, grounding flights and trapping travelers in duty-free purgatory. The VIP terminal marble floors polished to mirror perfection, crystal chandeliers reflecting wealth like manufactured stars, hummed with the controlled chaos of delayed diplomats and black market operators whose schedules couldn't afford weather delays. Jasmine McDonald, 27, and exhausted in ways sleep couldn't fix, clutched 3 boarding passes she never wanted. Jamaica Seoul, nowhere that felt like home. The asylum request had bottlenecked. DNA surveillance suspicion, they'd called it. Verification and briefing, the bureaucratic letter demanded. She wasn't alone. Arden and Kaya, 6 years old, cinnamon-skinned, ocean-sharp eyes that missed nothing flanked her like small soldiers. Arden dragged a backpack covered in superhero stickers. Kaya carried a stuffed turtle named Shelly with one eye missing. "Mummy, why we have come back here?" Arden's patois slipped through, the Jamaican rhythm he'd inherited from her grandmother's bedtime stories. "Just paperwork, baby. We'll be home soon." But Jasmine's hands trembled around the boarding passes. Because home was a lie. Home was a coastal town where nobody asked questions. Home was 6 years of silence, and across the terminal past designer luggage, past startled tourists holding Seoul guidebooks, past security checkpoints designed to catch weapons but never secrets, he stood. Hyun-Suk Kim, 33. 6'3", silk black hair combed back like armor, eyes colder than currency, darker than mercy. A neck tattoo bloomed beneath his collar, serpentine dragon script symbolizing control over East Asian underworld trade routes from Busan to Manila. He wore a charcoal suit tailored to conceal weapons and wealth in equal measure. Authority radiated from him like heat from asphalt in summer, invisible but undeniable. 6 guards surrounded him in tactical formation, black operations coats, commando boots, hands resting near concealed steel, not because they lacked discipline, but because discipline feared their employer more than death. VIP gates sealed behind them. This wasn't a business trip. This was a movement. Then Kaya saw him. "Mummy, look!" Jasmine's heart dropped into her stomach. Kaya's small finger pointed across 50 feet of polished marble. Arden followed his sister's gaze, and something instinct, fate, genetic memory clicked. "No, no, no," Jasmine whispered. Too late. They ran. 2 6-year-olds abandoned refugee paperwork, exhaustion, and every adult rule Jasmine had drilled into them. Their sneakers squeaked against stone. Travelers jerked back, coffee sloshing, phones dropping. "Arden! Kaya! Stop!" But momentum had already claimed them. 6 guards stepped forward in perfect synchronization, a firing squad arc, hands reaching for concealed weapons. Protocol: protect the king, neutralize threats. Jasmine's soul evaporated. She sprinted after them, her worn flats sliding on marble, her breath fracturing into panic. "Please God, please God, please." Then Hyun-Suk lifted one hand. Just one hand. The hand that ended wars. The hand that signed execution orders in 5 countries. The hand that tonight inexplicably, impossibly paused violence. The guards froze mid-step. Arden and Kaya crashed into Hyun-Suk's legs like waves against stone. Small arms wrapped around expensive black fabric. Kaya pressed her cheek against his knee. Arden looked up way up, and his face split into a smile that could have powered cities. Jasmine collided behind them, grabbing for her children with trembling hands. "I'm so sorry, sir. Please. They don't understand. Let go right now." "Daddy?" The word cracked the terminal like thunder in a sealed vault. Travelers froze. Security guards reached for radios. Even the pianist in the corner lounge missed a note, the melody fracturing into discordant silence. Arden squeezed tighter. "Mummy," said Daddy was tall and had kind eyes and strong hands. "Look." He held up Hyun-Suk's palm like evidence. Jasmine's vision blurred. "Baby, that's not—" "Stop." The single word made everyone within 50 feet freeze bellhops, flight attendants, even a child holding a balloon. Hyun-Suk lowered himself to one knee with controlled precision. He wore power like a second skin, and now that power focused entirely on the twins clinging to him. He studied Arden's face first, then Kaya's. His obsidian chip eyes traced features with the intensity of a man solving a murder or committing one. Recognition flickered. then confusion, then something darker, something that looked like 6 years of unfinished business rising from the grave. His gaze lifted, met Jasmine's, and the world stopped. She knew that look. She'd seen it once before, in Kingston, in a hotel room that smelled like rum and regret, when his guard had been down, when his empire had been poisoned, when she'd been the stranger who'd saved his life without knowing she was handing him her future. You, Hyun-suk breathed, voice carved from smoke and ruin. Jasmine's throat closed. Her arms tightened around her children. Not his, not anyone's, but hers. Sir, I don't. His voice dropped lower, velvet over steel. Don't insult my intelligence. One of his guards' tree-trunk neck, dead eyes, scar running ear to collar, stepped forward. Boss, we isolate? No. Hyun-suk stood slowly, every movement deliberate. His gaze never left Jasmine's face. We test. The air between them thickened. Electric. Dangerous. Jasmine backed up, pulling Arden and Kaya with her. These are my children. You have no right. Those eyes. Hyun-suk's thumb gestured toward Arden. That stubborn chin. His gaze slid to Kaya. The way she tilts her head when she's curious. Jasmine's breath fractured. Coincidence. How old are they? That's none of your business. Answer the question. Not a request. A command backed by 6 armed men and a government that looked the other way when Kim family business required discretion. 6. The word tasted like surrender. And their father? Dead. The lie came automatically, rehearsed over 6 years of border crossings and asylum interviews. Hyun-suk stepped closer, close enough that Jasmine could smell his cologne clean, sharp, expensive, close enough that she remembered what his hands felt like tangled in her hair, what his voice sounded like when he wasn't wearing authority like armor. Look at me, he said quietly. She did. God help her, she did. His eyes searched hers not for lies, but for truth, and she saw the moment he found it. The moment 6 years of searching, of ghost stories whispered through underworld networks, of a woman who'd vanished from a Kingston harbor like smoke crystallized. You ran, he said. Not an accusation. A fact. I survived, she corrected. From me? From everything you represent. Kaya tugged Jasmine's sleeve. Mummy, why everybody mad? Nobody's mad, baby. Jasmine scooped her up with practiced efficiency, the same muscle memory that had carried them through bad neighborhoods, aggressive men, debt collectors. This felt exactly the same. We need to go finish your homework. The children stay. Tree trunk guard moved to block the exit. Jasmine's voice sharpened into something feral. Touch my children and I'll scream. This airport has cameras everywhere. Witnesses. Try it. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Hyun-suk raised one hand slightly. The guard stopped. Kong, Hyun-suk said quietly. Clear the terminal. Now. Within 90 seconds, the VIP terminal emptied like water down a drain. Security staff ushered travelers toward alternate gates with practiced efficiency. Money talks in international airports. And the Kim family owned half the legitimate businesses in Seoul and all the illegitimate ones. Jasmine found herself alone with 6 armed men, 2 terrified children, and a crime lord who'd just discovered he might be a father. Hyun-suk crouched again, this time maintaining respectful distance. His voice softened by a microscopic degree the way stone softens right before it cracks. What's your name? He asked Arden. The boy peeked from behind Jasmine's leg. Arden. That's a strong name. Hyun-suk's expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted like a predator recognizing its own bloodline. And you? He looked at Kaya. Kaya. She hugged her one-eyed turtle tighter. Do you like living in... He glanced at Jasmine. Where are you living? Port Antonio, Jasmine said flatly. Jamaica. Do you like it there, Arden? The boy nodded shyly. Good. Hyun-suk stood. The brief moment of almost humanity vanished like water on hot concrete. He looked at Jasmine with the same expression she imagined he used when deciding whether someone lived or died. We're not finished, he said. I'll find you again soon. He walked away, guards falling into formation around him like planets orbiting a black hole. Jasmine's legs buckled. She slid down a marble pillar, still clutching Arden and Kaya, and tried to remember how to breathe. Mummy, why are you crying? Kaya touched her wet cheeks with small fingers. I'm not, baby. Just tired. But Arden, too smart, too observant, stared at the empty terminal where Hyun-suk had disappeared. That man wasn't mean, Mummy. Jasmine laughed. A broken, hysterical sound that echoed off luxury retail storefronts and duty-free perfume displays. Baby, she whispered, pulling them both close. We need to go home, right now. She grabbed their backpacks. ignored the terminal staff's confused questions, and ran. Out of VIP. Through security checkpoints where guards waved her through with nervous glances. Down escalators. Into the main terminal where normal people waited for normal flights to normal lives. She bought 3 tickets on the next flight to Kingston, using her emergency credit card, the one she'd sworn never to touch unless the world was ending. The world was ending. At gate 47, boarding pass trembling in her hand, she looked over her shoulder. A man in a black coat stood 50 feet away, watching, not approaching, just watching. Jasmine herded Arden and Kaya onto the plane, chose seats in the very back, and didn't breathe until they were airborne. The man in the black coat never boarded. He didn't need to. They knew where she lived now. 13 hours later, Jasmine unlocked her small coastal house in Port Antonio with shaking hands. 3 deadbolts, security bars on windows, motion sensor lights she'd installed herself. Arden and Kaya collapsed onto their shared mattress, asleep before she could even pull off their shoes. Jasmine stood at the window, watching fishing boats bob in the harbor, and waited. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter like a bomb. Any minute now, it would ring. Any minute now, someone would knock. 6 years. She'd managed 6 years of invisibility, working 3 jobs, keeping her head down, never making eye contact with men in expensive suits. Until today. Until her children, her brilliant, intuitive, impossible children had recognized their father by instinct alone. A knock at the door. Jasmine's spatula clattered into the sink where she'd been washing dinner dishes. Arden stirred on the mattress but didn't wake. Another knock. Heavier. She positioned herself between the door and her children. Who is it? Delivery. Male voice. Unfamiliar. Courier service. I didn't order anything. It's from Seoul, ma'am. From Hyun So Kim. The world tilted sideways. Jasmine looked at her sleeping children, then at the deadbolts that suddenly seemed made of paper. She opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. A different guard stood there, younger, less threatening. He held a manila envelope sealed with red wax bearing a dragon insignia. Mr. Kim requests your presence next week, the guard said. A private plane will arrive Saturday. Address and documentation are inside. And if I refuse? The guard's expression remained professionally neutral. Then he'll come here. Your choice, which is less disruptive for your children. He left the envelope on her doormat and disappeared into the tropical night. Jasmine stared at it for a full minute before picking it up. Inside, plane tickets, a visa expedited through channels that shouldn't exist, and a note in sharp handwriting. We need to talk about Kingston. About 6 years. About blood. Bring the twins. No harm will come to any of you. You have my word. HK. His word. As if that meant anything. Jasmine crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again, reading it 3 more times as if the words would change. Arden appeared beside her, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Mummy, are we going somewhere? She looked down at her son's face. Those eyes that were definitely not hers. That stubborn chin. The way he stood with his weight on one hip, exactly like the man who'd knelt in an airport terminal and studied him like treasure. All the features she'd tried not to see for 6 years. Yeah, baby. Jasmine pulled him close, breathing in his coconut shampoo smell, memorizing his warmth. Yeah, we are. Because she'd learned one thing in 6 years of running. You can't outrun blood. And you can't outrun the Korean MAFIA king, not when your children had already chosen him. But to understand how a single mother from Kingston ended up in the crosshairs of Asia's most dangerous man, we need to go back, 6 years back, to a night in Kingston where poison, rum, and fate collided in ways nobody could have predicted. The Kim Sky Estate rose from Seoul's Gangnam district, like a glass dagger aimed at heaven. 30 floors of steel, bulletproof windows, and surveillance systems that could track a heartbeat from 3 blocks away. Jasmine stood in the marble entrance hall, Arden's hand in her left, Kaya's in her right, and stared at wealth she couldn't comprehend. Crystal chandeliers that cost more than her entire life, abstract art that museums would kill for. Floors so polished she could see her reflection, a Jamaican woman in worn jeans and a faded university hoodie, standing in a palace built by blood money. This way, Miss McDonald. Kong, the tree trunk guard, gestured toward an elevator with biometric scanners. Where are you taking us? Jasmine's voice echoed off marble walls. East Wing, your quarters. Not quarters. Prison. Kong's expression remained neutral. The boss said you get autonomy. Private kitchen. Encrypted locks. You control access. Except I can't leave. Neither can he. Council decree. Kong pressed his palm to the scanner. DNA protocol is mandatory for succession claims. You're not the first woman to stand where you're standing, but you might be the first one telling the truth. The elevator doors opened. Jasmine pulled her children inside, and they ascended in silence. The East Wing apartment was larger than her entire house in Port Antonio. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. 3 bedrooms, a kitchen with appliances she didn't recognize, a living room designed by someone who'd never worried about paying rent. But luxury couldn't hide the truth. Gilded cages were still cages. "Mummy, look!" Arden ran to the window. "We're so high. Come away from there, baby." A knock interrupted. Jasmine turned to find Hyun-sok standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "The medical team arrives in 30 minutes, he said. "Simple cheek swab, non-invasive. And if I refuse?" "You won't." Not a threat. A statement of fact. "Because you want to know as much as I do." Jasmine crossed her arms. "I already know. You want confirmation." 6 years, Jasmine. Her name in his mouth sounded like an accusation and a prayer. 6 years you kept my children from me. "Your children?" Fire ignited in her chest. "I carried them. I birthed them alone in a Kingston hospital with nobody but my friend Zara holding my hand. I fed them, clothed them, protected them from men like you. Men like me." Hyun-sok stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "You mean men who would have given them everything? Safety? Resources? A future without running? A future in the crosshairs of every enemy you've made." Jasmine's voice cracked. "You think I didn't know who you were? The Kim family doesn't just make headlines, they make body counts." Silence stretched between them, thick with 6 years of unspoken words. "The council demands verification," Hyun-sok said quietly. "If the twins are mine, they inherit everything. Power, enemies, protection. If they're not," he paused, "you're free to go. And if they are yours?" His obsidian eyes met hers. "Then we negotiate what happens next. Together." The medical team arrived precisely on schedule. 2 doctors, 1 nurse, all professional detachment. They swabbed Arden's cheek first, he giggled, said it tickled. Then Kaya, who clutched her one-eyed turtle and asked if it would hurt. "No pain, sweetheart," the doctor promised. Hyun-sok submitted his sample without hesitation. Then everyone turned to Jasmine. "Control samples," the head doctor explained. "We need the mother's DNA to confirm lineage through mitochondrial markers." Jasmine opened her mouth. "Let them swab her cheek. Watch them seal the samples in biohazard bags labeled with alphanumeric codes that erased names. Left only science. Results in 72 hours, the doctor said. Council review follows immediately." After they left, Jasmine found Hyun-sok standing at the window, silhouetted against Seoul's neon glow. "What happens if the council doesn't believe the results?" she asked. "They will. My council doesn't traffic in lies." He turned to face her. "But the rest of the world? That's different. Rival syndicates will call it fraud. Tabloids will call it scandal. Everyone with something to gain will call it opportunity. And my children become targets. They already are." His voice gentled, barely perceptible. "But there. The moment they called me daddy in that airport, every criminal network in Asia started calculating angles. The Trinidad Tri-Cobra cartel, the Yakuza splinter cells, even legitimate corporations who want leverage against Kim expansion." Jasmine's throat tightened. "Then let me take them home. Disappear again. We're good at it. You can't outrun satellite surveillance and cartel intel networks. Not anymore." Hyun-sok moved closer, and Jasmine hated how her body remembered his proximity, the heat of him, the cologne that smelled like cedar and smoke. "But you can stand beside me. Let me protect what's mine." "They're not. If that DNA test confirms what I already know," his voice dropped lower, intimate despite the formal distance, "then yes, they're mine. You're mine. This family is mine to protect. I'm nobody's possession." "No." Something flickered in his eyes, respect, maybe, or recognition. "You're a hurricane disguised as a woman. I learned that 6 years ago in Kingston, when you saved my life and disappeared before dawn." Jasmine's breath caught. "You remember. Every second." He stepped back, restoring professional distance. "The council meets in 3 days. Until then, you have full autonomy here. Kong will brief you on security protocols. Your friend Zara, she has immigration papers tied up in bureaucratic red tape? How did you—" "I own half the lawyers in Kingston and all the fixers in Seoul. I'll have her papers expedited. She can join you here if you want. Family supports family. We're not family. Not yet." Hyun-sok moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the frame. "But in 72 hours, that might change. Sleep well, Jasmine. Tomorrow Kong will show you the safe rooms. Just in case." "In case of what?" He looked back, and for one moment, the mask cracked. She saw fear genuine, primal fear in the eyes of a man who'd built an empire on not feeling anything. In case everyone else wants what I just found. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Jasmine stood alone in her gilded cage, surrounded by luxury she never wanted, protecting children who'd chosen their father before she could stop them. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. DNA results will leak before council review. Prepare for media siege. I'll handle it. H.K. Jasmine deleted the text, checked on her sleeping children, and stood at the window watching Seoul's lights blur through unshed tears. She'd survived 6 years alone. Now she'd have to survive 72 hours in the eye of a storm she'd spent 6 years running from. Outside, 3 black sedans circled the building's perimeter. Guard rotations, security protocols, or the first move in a war where her children were the prize. Day 2 in the Kim Sky estate, and Jasmine woke to the smell of coffee she didn't brew. She found Kong in her private kitchen. Setting out breakfast like this was normal. Coconut porridge Jamaican style, fried plantains, fresh mango sliced into perfect cubes. Morning, Miss McDonald. Kong poured coffee into a mug that probably cost more than her monthly rent back home. Boss said you prefer Jamaican breakfast. Chef had to source the ingredients from 3 different importers. Jasmine stared. He remembered what I eat. Boss forgets nothing. Kong slid a tablet across the counter. Your friend Zara's immigration papers. Expedited. She lands tomorrow. The document on screen showed Zara Campbell, legal guardian of Jasmine's refugee case documents, best friend since secondary school, the sister Jasmine chose when blood family turned their backs on a pregnant girl with no ring. He actually did it, Jasmine whispered. Said he would. Kong checked his watch. Security briefing in 10. Bring the twins. They need to learn the protocols. The safe room looked like something from a spy movie. Reinforced steel walls. Independent oxygen supply. Satellite phone. Enough food and water for 2 weeks. Arden and Kaya explored like it was a game. Push here. Light turns on. Press there. Emergency alert triggers. Why we need this, Mummy? Kaya asked, hugging her turtle. Before Jasmine could lie, Hyun-sok appeared in the doorway. He wore casual clothes today, black jeans, gray Henley that showed the dragon tattoo curling up his neck. He looked almost human. Almost. Because sometimes people want to take things that don't belong to them, he told Kaya, crouching to her level. And we need to be ready. Like pirates? Arden's eyes widened. Exactly like pirates. Will you fight them? Hyun-suk's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered behind his eyes. If I have to. Papa fights bad guys, Arden announced proudly. Jasmine's stomach dropped. Arden, don't let him. Hyun-sok stood. If the DNA confirms what we both know, he'll call me that officially soon enough. The DNA might say you're their father, Jasmine said quietly, but that doesn't make you their daddy. Their eyes met, held, the air between them charged with 6 years of unspoken history. Then I'll earn it, he said simply. That afternoon, Jasmine found Hyun-sok in his office, a corner room with screens displaying security feeds, stock markets, and news channels in 5 languages. Arden's nursery, she said without preamble. It's too far from my room. I want it moved next to mine. The current layout follows security protocols. I don't care about your protocols. I care about being able to reach my son in under 5 seconds if something happens. Hyun-sok studied her, then nodded. Kong, relocate Arden's room to East Wing, tonight. Kong's eyebrow twitched, the closest thing to surprise Jasmine had seen on his face. That means reconfiguring the entire... Tonight, Hyun-sok repeated. Anything else, Jasmine? She blinked. That was it? No argument? No. Good. Stay for a minute. He gestured to a chair. We need to discuss something. Jasmine remained standing. I prefer to stand when men with guns tell me what to do. Almost smile ghost across his face. Fair enough. He pulled up a file on his screen. Trinidad Tricobra Cartel. Led by Dante Rojas. Operates out of Port of Spain. Controls Caribbean to Europe shipping routes for everything from rum to refugees. What does that have to do with me? Everything. He rotated the screen toward her. Surveillance photos filled the display, grainy images of Arden and Kaya at preschool in Port Antonio. At the market. Playing on the beach. Jasmine's blood turned to ice. When were these taken? 2 years ago. 3 years ago. 4 years ago. Hyun-sok's voice gentled. Someone's been watching your children since they were toddlers, Jasmine. Long before that airport terminal. Long before you came back to Seoul. That's impossible. I was careful. I changed apartments every 6 months, used cash, stayed off social media. Tricobra has informants in every Caribbean port. Once they connected you to me, probably through visa applications or medical records, they started building a file. He closed the screen. They've been waiting, planning extraction routes, kidnap scenarios. Jasmine sat down. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Why? Because blood heirs to the Kim family are worth more than gold. Leverage against my expansion into Caribbean markets. Bargaining chips for territory negotiations. He leaned forward. And now that the twins made our connection public, Dante knows his window is closing. He'll move soon. Then send us away. Hide us somewhere. Hiding is what put you in their crosshairs. Running made you vulnerable. Hyun-sok's hand moved across the desk, not touching her, but close. Staying here, under my protection, makes you untouchable. Attack my family, and every alliance I've built for 20 years activates. Dante knows that. Your family. Jasmine laughed bitterly. 48 hours ago, you didn't know we existed. I've known for 6 years that someone saved my life in Kingston. That a woman with ocean eyes and hurricane strength disappeared before I could thank her. That somewhere, a piece of my life was missing. His voice dropped. I just didn't know it came in a package deal with twins who braid yarn and call strangers daddy. Before Jasmine could respond, Kaya appeared in the doorway, dragging Hyun-sok's tactical gloves. Can you tie my shoes? She asked him. Mummy's busy crying. I'm not crying, Jasmine said quickly, wiping her eyes. Hyun-sok knelt. Let Kaya climb onto his knee, tied her shoes with hands that had ended lives, now handling tiny laces like they were made of glass. There, he said softly. Tight enough? Kaya tested them, then pulled red yarn from her pocket. Now your pinky. Kaya, don't bother, Jasmine started. Let her. Hyun-sok extended his hand. Kaya braided the yarn around his pinky finger with intense concentration, tongue peeking out. When she finished, she held up his hand to inspect her work. Now we're connected, she announced. Like friendship bracelets, except fancier. Hyun-sok stared at the red yarn, rough, childish, absolutely perfect. Something cracked in his expression. Not much, but enough. Thank you, Kaya. She hugged his neck and skipped away. Jasmine and Hyun-sok sat in silence, watching her go. Your daughter, he said quietly, just claimed me with yarn and innocence. She doesn't understand what you are. Maybe. He looked at the yarn still wrapped around his pinky. Or maybe children see what adults refuse to. That blood is thicker than fear. That family happens in moments, not documents. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened back into the crime lord she recognized. The council moved up the meeting. DNA results tomorrow morning. He stood. Get some sleep. Jasmine, tomorrow everything changes. That night, Jasmine found a folder slipped under her door. Inside, immigration documents for Zara. A new passport, work visa, permanent resident status in South Korea, and a handwritten note. Family supports family, even before blood confirms it. H.K. Jasmine held the documents against her chest and cried for the first time in 6 years, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. Hope. The DNA results arrived at dawn in a sealed envelope with the Korean Crime Council's dragon insignia pressed into red wax. Hyun-sok stood in his office, surrounded by Kong and 4 senior council members, men whose combined body counts could populate a small cemetery. Jasmine sat across from them, Arden and Kaya playing in the next room under guard supervision. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Miss MacDonald, the eldest council member began. Before we open these results, you understand what's at stake? My children's lives. Yes. More than that. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. If paternity is confirmed, Arden and Kaya become heirs to the Kim family legacy. Protection, resources, education, but also enemies. Every rival syndicate, every political opponent, every person who's ever wanted leverage against this family. And if paternity isn't confirmed, Jasmine asked, then you're free to leave, with our apologies and financial compensation for the inconvenience. Hyun-sok's jaw tightened. Open it. The eldest council member broke the seal, unfolded the document, and read silently. His expression revealed nothing. Then he looked up. Confirmed. Probability of paternity. 99.98%. Hyun-sok Kim is the biological father of both children. The room exhaled. Jasmine closed her eyes. Part of her had hoped for a different answer. The answer that meant freedom, anonymity, safety. Instead, she got truth. There's more, the council member continued. We ran additional genealogy markers. The children show trace genetics consistent with the Kim bloodline going back 4 generations. This isn't just paternity. This is lineage. Hyun-sok stood motionless. Then he turned to Jasmine, and for one unguarded moment, she saw raw emotion crack through his armor. "They're mine," he said quietly. "Not to the council. To her. They were always mine. Biology doesn't make you a father. I know." He moved closer, ignoring the council members watching. "But it gives me the right to try. And I'm asking for that chance." Before Jasmine could respond, alarms shrieked through the estate. Kong's hand flew to his earpiece. "Sir. Security breach. Someone's accessing restricted servers. Lock it down. They're already in, downloading files." Kong's face paled. "Surveillance archives, including the Tri-Cobra intelligence dossiers." Hyun-sok's expression went cold. "Find the source, now." 30 minutes later, they had answers. The breach came from inside the estate. From a terminal in the diplomatic wing, the section reserved for international liaisons and family advisors. Kong pulled up security footage. A man in his 40s, expensive suit, Caribbean accent when he spoke to staff. "Hector Livorno. Your cousin," Kong said quietly. "Puerto Rican liaison. He's been with the family for 8 years. Hyun-sok's hands clenched. "Show me what he accessed." Kong pulled up the file list. Jasmine's breath stopped. Tri-Cobra surveillance target. McDonald twins. Extraction protocol. Port. Antonio. Sniper positions. Estate breach coordinates. Vulnerable access points. East Wing maternal quarters. "He's been feeding them information," Jasmine whispered. "About my children. About where we sleep. About everything." Hyun-sok's voice could have cut steel. "Kong, find Hector. Alive. I want answers before I decide how he dies." But Kong was already pulling up more files. "Sir, you need to see this." Surveillance photos filled the screens. Not recent, dated 2, 3, 4 years ago. Arden and Kaya at preschool. Playing on beaches. Shopping with Jasmine at outdoor markets. Someone had been watching her children since they were toddlers. Long before the airport. Long before Seoul. "They've been planning this for years." Jasmine's voice shook. The kidnapping wasn't opportunistic. It was premeditated. Hyun-sok turned to his counsel. "Activate full lockdown. No one enters or leaves the estate without biometric clearance. Move Jasmine and the twins to the underground safe level. Now." "Sir," Kong hesitated. "If we move them now, we signal that we're rattled, that we're vulnerable." "They already know we're vulnerable." Hector made sure of that. Hyun-sok looked at Jasmine. "I won't gamble with their lives to protect my reputation." "What about Hector?" the eldest council member asked. "He's family," Hyun-sok said flatly. "Which makes this worse. Family betrayal demands family justice." They found Hector in the diplomatic wing, calmly drinking espresso and reviewing trade agreements like he hadn't just sold out 2 6-year-olds to a cartel. Hyun-sok entered, flanked by Kong and 6 armed guards. Jasmine followed despite protests. She needed to see the face of the man who'd marked her children for death. "Cousin." Hector didn't look up. "I wondered when you'd figure it out." "Why?" Simple question. Lethal tone. "Why not?" Hector finally met his eyes. "You built this empire on our family's blood, Hyun-sok. My father died securing your trade routes. My brother disappeared protecting your shipments. And what did I get? A liaison position and a salary that's pennies compared to your fortune. So you sold out children." "I sold out heirs." Hector's smile was poison. "Do you know what Dante Rojas offered me? Partnership. Territory. Control over Caribbean operations. All I had to do was provide access to your newest weakness." Jasmine stepped forward. Kong tried to stop her, but she shrugged him off. "Those are 6-year-olds, she said quietly. "Babies who play with yarn and stuffed turtles. How much did you get paid to target children?" Hector looked at her, really looked, and something almost like shame flickered in his eyes. "Enough to retire," he said. "Enough to disappear. Enough to stop being the Kim family's errand boy. Not enough to sleep at night," Hyun-sok said. "Kong, take him to the holding cells. I'll deal with him after I secure my family." As guards dragged Hector away, he looked back. "You can't protect them forever, cousin. Dante has plans within plans. And he's not the only one who wants leverage against you." The door slammed shut. Jasmine turned to Hyun-sok. "What now?" "Now?" He pulled out his phone, made a call, switched to rapid Korean. When he hung up, his expression was set in stone. "Now we go public. Tomorrow night, we're hosting a charity gala. Live broadcast across Asia and the Caribbean. Maternal Health Initiative. You're insane. We just discovered a mole and an active threat, which is exactly why we go public. Hyun-sok moved to the window, watching Seoul's lights blur into distance. Right now, Dante thinks he has the advantage, thinks I'll hide you, keep the twins secret, operate from fear. Instead, I'm going to announce to the entire world that they're mine, that you're family, that any threat against you is war against me. You'll make them bigger targets. No. He turned to face her. I'll make them untouchable. You don't kidnap the publicly acknowledged heirs to a criminal empire. You create international incidents, government investigations, media firestorms. His voice softened. I learned a long time ago, Jasmine. The best way to protect something valuable isn't to hide it. It's to make sure everyone knows the price of touching it. Jasmine looked at this man, this crime lord who just discovered he was a father and was already calculating ways to weaponize that revelation. And if your plan fails, she asked, then I'll burn the world down to keep them safe. Not bravado, promise, but it won't fail. Because tomorrow night I'm claiming what's mine, publicly, permanently. He walked out, leaving Jasmine surrounded by security monitors showing her children sleeping innocent, oblivious, and now caught in a war they didn't understand. Outside, storm clouds gathered over Seoul. Inside, Jasmine made a decision. If Hyun-sok was going to protect her children by claiming them, then she'd protect them by being ready to burn his empire down if he failed. She pulled out her phone and texted Zara, who'd just landed. Bring everything we hid in Kingston. The documents, the recordings, the evidence. All of it. If this goes wrong, I need insurance. The response came immediately. Already packed. What's happening? Jasmine stared at the surveillance feeds at her sleeping children, at the crime lord who'd just promised to protect them, at the storm brewing on the horizon. War, she typed back. War is happening. The Kim Sky estate transformed overnight into a palace of glass and strategic theater. White silk draped from 30-foot ceilings, ice sculptures shaped like mothers cradling children, tables loaded with cuisine from Kingston to Kyoto, and at the center of it all, a stage with cameras ready to broadcast across 3 continents. Maternal Futures Initiative, the banners proclaimed. Supporting refugee mothers and children worldwide. Jasmine stood in her assigned suite, staring at the dress laid out on her bed. Emerald green silk that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Designer shoes she'd never learned to walk in. Jewelry that came with its own security detail. You don't have to wear it, Zara said from the doorway. She'd arrived that morning, her locks styled in fresh butterfly locks, her brown skin glowing despite the chaos. Tell His Majesty you're rocking your Target special. Jasmine laughed, despite the fear coiled in her stomach. I missed you. Missed you too. Zara hugged her hard. Now tell me why you really brought me here. And don't say immigration papers. I need someone I trust. Someone who'll get Arden and Kaya out if this gala becomes a massacre. Zara pulled back. Jas, what are you not telling me? Jasmine explained everything. The DNA results. The cartel surveillance. Hector's betrayal. Hyun-sok's plan to claim them publicly. That man is either brilliant or suicidal, Zara said. Maybe both. He promised to protect them. And you believe him? Jasmine looked out the window at Seoul's sprawling landscape. I believe he'll try, whether that's enough. She trailed off. You still have the recordings from Kingston? From the night you met him? Yeah. Why? Keep them safe. If something happens to me, if he tries to take the twins and cut me out. Jas. Zara gripped her shoulders. That man looks at you like you're the answer to a question he's been asking for 6 years. Trust me, he's not cutting you out of anything. A knock interrupted. Kong entered, holding 2 small garment bags. For the twins, he said. Boss wants them on stage with you. Jasmine's blood chilled. Absolutely not. It's necessary. The announcement won't work if people don't see them. Don't see the family. They're 6 years old, which is exactly why it works. Kong's expression softened barely. Nobody attacks children on live broadcast. It's the safest place they could be. Or the biggest target. Miss MacDonald? Kong met her eyes. I've worked for Boss for 12 years. I've seen him make 1,000 calculated decisions. This isn't one of them. This is desperation dressed up as strategy. He's terrified, and he's doing the only thing he knows how, controlling the narrative before someone else does. Jasmine stared at the garment bags. What if we lose control anyway? Then I die protecting those kids before anyone touches them. Kong set the bags down. And so does he. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. We're family now. After he left, Jasmine unzipped the bags. Traditional Korean hanbok for Kaya, silk in soft pink with embroidered butterflies. A tailored suit for Arden, child-sized but perfectly cut. They look like royalty, Zara whispered. They look like targets. The gala began at sunset. 500 guests, diplomats, business leaders, celebrities, and carefully vetted crime syndicate liaisons who operated in the gray spaces between legal and lethal. Jasmine descended the grand staircase in her emerald dress, Arden and Kaya on either side. The twins looked confused but excited, waving at strangers like this was a game. At the bottom, Hyun-suk waited. He wore a black tuxedo tailored to perfection, his dragon tattoo just visible above his collar. When his eyes found Jasmine, something flickered: heat, recognition, possession. You look. He paused. Dangerous. That's intentional, Jasmine replied. He crouched to the twins' level. You both look very grown up tonight. Mummy made me wear fancy shoes, Kaya complained, wiggling her toes. They hurt? Little bit. Hyun-suk snapped his fingers. An assistant appeared with child-sized sneakers, custom-made, emerald green to match Jasmine's dress. Better? He asked after Kaya changed. She nodded enthusiastically. Arden tugged Hyun-suk's sleeve. Are you going to tell everyone you're our papa now? The question silenced nearby conversations. Guests pretended not to listen while listening intently. Hyun-suk looked at Jasmine. If your mother allows it. All eyes turned to her. 500 people waiting for an answer that would shift the underworld's power balance. Jasmine knelt beside Arden. Yes, baby. Tonight the world learns you have a father. Will he live with us after? We'll see. That's what you always say when you mean yes. Arden hugged her neck. Cameras clicked. Phones recorded. Within seconds, the moment would viral across 3 continents, exactly as Hyun-suk had planned. The gala proceeded with military precision. Speeches about maternal health, donations pledged. Cultural performances from Korean traditional dance to Caribbean steel drum orchestras. Then came the moment. Hyun-suk took the stage, microphone in hand, and the room fell silent. Tonight, we celebrate mothers who sacrifice everything for their children, he began. Mothers who cross oceans, who fight systems, who protect their babies against impossible odds. He gestured toward Jasmine. She stood frozen as spotlights found her. 6 years ago, I met a woman in Kingston, Jamaica. She saved my life, disappeared before dawn, and I spent 6 years searching for her. His voice carried across the ballroom, broadcast live to millions. I found her 10 days ago in an airport, but I didn't find her alone. Arden and Kaya stepped forward, coached earlier by Kong. They waved at the cameras. These are my children, Hyun-suk said. Arden and Kaya Kim, blood-confirmed heirs to the Kim family legacy. And this, he looked directly at Jasmine, is their mother. My family. The room exploded. Applause, gasps, frantic typing on phones, but Jasmine heard none of it, because across the ballroom, she saw movement. A waiter, wrong uniform, wrong posture reaching beneath his jacket. Gun! She screamed. Kong moved like lightning, tackled the man. Guests scattered, screaming, but the waiter was a distraction, because outside, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Jasmine saw them. 3 harbor cargo trucks, supposedly carrying decor shipments, rolling through the estate gates. And then, boom, the north wall exploded, glass shattered, fire bloomed, alarms shrieked. The Tri-Cobra cartel had just declared war. What happens next will define whether this family survives. But real quick, my mom said nobody would watch a story about a Jamaican mom and a Korean crime lord. If you're still here, drop a comment, Team Jasmine or Team Hyun-suk, and hit subscribe because this story is about to get wild. Back to the action. The explosion turned the gala into chaos. Guests stampeded toward exits. Security guards formed protective barriers. Smoke poured through the shattered north wall, carrying the smell of rum and gunpowder. Jasmine grabbed Arden and Kaya, shielding them with her body. Stay down. But Kaya was already crying, and Arden was frozen in terror, and the room was collapsing into pandemonium. Then Hyun-suk was there. He lifted Arden with one arm, grabbed Kaya with the other, and spoke directly into Jasmine's eyes. The safe room. East wing. Run. What about you? I'll buy you time. He handed the twins to Kong. Go. Now. Kong grabbed Jasmine's wrist and pulled. She ran, stilettos kicked off, emerald dress torn, maternal instinct overriding everything else. Behind them, gunfire erupted. They reached the east wing through a service corridor. Emergency lighting painted everything red. Kong swiped his access card, and the reinforced steel door slid open. Inside. Lock it from within. Don't open for anyone but me or the boss. Kong. Go. Jasmine herded the twins inside. The door sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. The safe room was exactly as Kong had shown her. Reinforced walls, independent oxygen, supplies for weeks, but also monitors showing security feeds throughout the estate. Jasmine forced herself to look. The ballroom was a war zone. Tri-Cobra operatives in tactical gear poured through the breach. They moved with military precision, not random criminals, but trained extraction teams. And they were all moving toward the east wing, toward the safe room, toward her children. "Mummy, I'm scared," Kaya whimpered. Jasmine pulled both twins close, wrapping them in her arms. "Remember what we practiced? The quiet game? We're gonna play that now. Super quiet, like mice." Arden nodded, tears streaming down his face. On the monitors, Jasmine watched Hyun-Sok move through the chaos like a force of nature. He wasn't just defending, he was hunting. 3 operatives went down before they saw him coming. Another 4 fell to Kong's tactical team. But there were too many, and they were getting closer. Then the lights died. The entire estate plunged into blackness. "Winter storm," Jasmine whispered. "They're using the weather." Emergency generators kicked on, but only partially. Enough for security systems, not enough to flood the estate with light. Perfect conditions for an assault. On the monitors, thermal imaging showed heat signatures converging on the east wing. 12, 15, 20 operatives. Jasmine moved to the steel cabinet labeled Emergency Protocols. Inside, a handgun, ammunition, pepper spray, and a satellite phone with one number programmed, Hyun-Sok's direct line. She'd never held a gun before. She picked it up anyway, because her children were 6 years old and terrified, and maternal instinct had transformed her into something primal, something willing to kill. A bang on the safe room door. Then another. "They're trying to breach," Arden cried. Jasmine positioned herself between the twins and the door, gun raised with shaking hands. On the monitor, she watched Hyun-Sok fighting through the east wing corridor. He moved like violence incarnate, precise, brutal, unstoppable. Bodies dropped in his wake, but he was still 3 corridors away. The safe room door groaned under impact. They were using something heavy, maybe a plasma cutter, maybe explosives. "Mummy?" Kaya's voice was tiny. "Close your eyes, babies. Don't look, don't listen. Just hold each other." The door began to glow red-hot where they were cutting. Then, boom. But not the door. The ceiling. Jasmine looked up in time to see a section of reinforced ceiling panel blow inward. Smoke poured through. And then, miracle or madness, a figure dropped through the hole. Female. Asian. Tactical gear. Rifle slung across her back. She landed in a combat crouch and swept the room with practiced efficiency. "Mira Kim," she said. "Tactical Operations Commander. Boss sent me. The door is about to fail. Come on." Mira pulled a rope from her harness and secured it to the ceiling breach. "Kids first. Then you. Move." Jasmine lifted Kaya, and Mira hauled her up through the hole with upper body strength that suggested military training. Then Arden. Then Jasmine. Her torn dress catching on jagged metal. They emerged into a maintenance shaft above the safe room. Below, the door finally breached. Operatives flooded inside, finding it empty. "This way," Mira whispered. They crawled through the shaft, Jasmine's hands bleeding, the twins crying silently. Mira leading them through passages designed for evacuation scenarios exactly like this. They emerged in the old service wing, far from the fighting, but not far enough. Because waiting at the exit was Hector. He held a gun. And behind him, 3 Tri-Cobra operatives. "Hello, cousin," he said to Mira. "Didn't expect family to ruin the extraction." "You're not family anymore," Mira replied coldly. "No, I'm wealthy." Hector gestured with his gun. "Dante paid up front, but he'll pay double if I deliver the twins alive. So here's what's happening." Jasmine didn't let him finish. She threw herself forward, screaming, clawing, becoming every protective mother throughout history who'd chosen violence over surrender. Hector stumbled backward, startled. Mira moved in, that heartbeat of distraction. 3 shots, 3 operatives dropped. Hector raised his gun toward Jasmine. Bang, but not his gun. Hyun-Sok's. He stood in the doorway, covered in blood that wasn't his, gun still smoking, eyes like death itself. "Touch my family," he said quietly, "and you don't get a quick death." Hector collapsed, gut shot and screaming. Hyun-Sok stepped over him without another glance and pulled Jasmine and the twins into his arms. "You're safe," he breathed into Jasmine's hair. "You're safe." Around them, tactical teams secured the estate. The siege was over. The Tri-Cobra extraction had failed. But as emergency lights flickered and sirens wailed, Jasmine realized something terrifying. This wasn't over. This was just the opening move, and the war for her children had only begun. The aftermath of the siege looked like a war crime scene. Jasmine sat in Hyun-suk's office at 3 a.m., wrapped in a blanket, watching medics treat Kong's shoulder wound while tactical teams swept the estate for additional threats. Arden and Kaya slept in the next room finally, mercifully unconscious after sedatives the pediatric doctor approved. 19 cartel operatives neutralized, Mira reported, her tactical gear still blood-stained. 3 captured alive for interrogation. Hector's in medical, he'll survive long enough to answer questions. And Dante? Hyun-suk asked. Ghost. Probably already back in Trinidad. Hyun-suk's jaw clenched. Then we bring Trinidad to him. Before Mira could respond, the eldest council member entered, somehow still impeccably dressed despite the chaos, carrying a sealed envelope. The DNA results, he said. Full genealogy report. Given tonight's events, I thought you'd want the complete picture. Hyun-suk took the envelope but didn't open it. We already know they're mine. Yes, but there's additional information. Family markers, genetic predispositions, medical histories that might be relevant for the twins' futures. He paused. The council has officially recognized them as Kim heirs. All protections, all resources, all succession rights are now active. Jasmine looked up. What does that mean? It means, Hyun-suk said quietly, that anyone who threatens Arden or Kaya threatens the entire Kim empire. It means diplomatic immunity in 12 countries. It means access to resources most governments don't have. It means they're untouchable, the council member finished. Legally, politically, financially. As of tonight's broadcast, which reached 42 million viewers before the siege, your children are among the most protected individuals in Asia. Protected. Jasmine laughed bitterly. We were just attacked by a cartel willing to bomb a charity gala. Yes. And that cartel is now facing consequences that extend far beyond our family. Hyun-suk pulled up a screen showing news headlines. Korean embassy demands Trinidad cartel investigation. Global outcry after children targeted in siege. Kim family heirs attacked. International manhunt begins. The moment Dante targeted publicly acknowledged heirs, Hyun-suk continued. He crossed a line. Governments are involved now. Interpol. International trafficking task forces. He can't hide anymore. He'll run, Mira said. Let him run. I've frozen his accounts, blacklisted his ships, and activated every contact I have in Caribbean law enforcement. Hyun-suk's voice was ice. Dante Rojas will spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, and when he stops running, I'll be there. Jasmine stood. I don't want revenge. I want my children safe. You can't have safety without consequences. Hyun-suk met her eyes. Dante needs to understand, needs to believe in his bones that touching your children means death. Not eventual death, not theoretical death. Immediate, brutal, public death. That's the only language cartels understand. So you'll start a war? No. He moved closer. I'll end one. By making the cost of fighting it too high. Silence stretched between them. Outside, Seoul's dawn crept over the horizon, the city oblivious to the night's violence. The DNA report, Jasmine said quietly. What else does it say? Hyun-suk opened the envelope, scanned the contents, and his expression softened microscopically. Arden has my grandfather's genetic markers, the stubbornness, the strategic thinking. He read further. Kaya has my grandmother's artistic aptitude genetics. There's a notation here about musical intelligence. She sings, Jasmine whispered. In the bath, all the time. Then we'll get her music lessons. He looked up. If you'll let us stay in their lives. You're their father. Biology confirmed it. You don't need my permission. Yes, I do. Hyun-suk set the report down. Because being their father means nothing if I'm not their daddy. And that's not decided by DNA or council decrees. That's decided by you, by them, by trust I haven't earned yet. Jasmine wanted to hate him. Wanted to grab her children and run back to Jamaica and pretend tonight never happened. But she'd watched him fight through an army to reach them, watched him take a bullet meant for Arden, watched him hold Kaya while she cried, whispering promises in Korean that he'd teach her to translate later. So earn it, she said simply. 3 days later, the world still reeled from the gala siege, but inside the Kim Sky estate, life found a strange new rhythm. Hyun-suk worked from home, conducting business via video conference while Arden built Lego towers in the corner of his office. Kaya followed Mira around, asking questions about tactical gear and whether she'd ever met a real princess. And Jasmine, Jasmine found herself sitting across from Hyun-sok at breakfast, drinking coffee from mugs that cost more than her monthly rent, discussing ordinary things like pediatrician appointments and preschool enrollment. "There's a Korean English immersion program," Hyun-sok said, sliding a tablet across the table. "Best security in Seoul. Background checks on all staff. I can have them enrolled next week. They'll need to learn Korean," Jasmine said. "Properly. Not just survival phrases. I'll teach them." He paused. "If you want. You have time to teach children between running a criminal empire? I'll make time. Not defensive, just factual. Family comes first. Everything else is negotiable." Jasmine studied him, this man who detonated into her life 10 days ago and rearranged everything. "You mean that? Every word, even if it means walking away from the empire?" Hyun-sok's eyes met hers. "If I had to choose between power and them, I already know what I'd choose. I learned that when I watched Arden's face while the safe room door was breaching. When I held Kaya after the siege." His voice dropped. "I've built empires. I can rebuild them. But I can't rebuild their childhoods. Can't rebuild their trust if I lose it now." Before Jasmine could respond, Arden ran in, holding a crayon drawing. "Look, I made us." 4 stick figures under a yellow sun. One tall with a dark scribble at the neck, Daddy's tattoo. One medium with long hair, Mummy. 2 small holding hands, him and Kaya. "Family," Arden announced proudly. Hyun-sok took the drawing like it was a military decoration, like it meant more than every territory he'd conquered, every deal he'd brokered, every enemy he'd eliminated. "Can I keep this?" he asked Arden. "Yeah, I'll make you more." After Arden ran off, Hyun-sok carefully placed the drawing in a frame on his desk, right where subordinates would see it during video conferences, right where enemies would understand what they'd be threatening. "He drew you with a smile," Jasmine observed. "I should smile more." Hyun-sok touched the drawing gently. "Apparently, I have reasons to now." That night, the council officially released a statement. The Kim family recognizes Jasmine McDonald as family matriarch. Arden Kim and Kaya Kim are acknowledged heirs. All protections apply. In Trinidad, Dante Rojas read the statement and began liquidating assets for permanent exile. In Seoul, a crime lord learned that becoming a father meant learning to smile again. And in the East Wing of the Sky Estate, Jasmine McDonald's survivor, mother, Hurricane, made a decision that would change everything. She'd give Hyun-sok his chance, but on her terms. 3 weeks after the siege, Jasmine found Hyun-sok in his office at midnight, surrounded by legal documents, and looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. "What's all this?" she asked. "Options," he gestured at the papers. "Legal frameworks for custody arrangements, co-parenting agreements, trust funds, separate residences with coordinated schedules. You're planning for me to leave. I'm planning for whatever you decide." He leaned back, and for once the armor cracked completely. "Because I can't keep you here, can't force you into a life you never wanted. The twins are mine by blood, but you're not bound by anything except..." "Except what?" Jasmine moved closer. "Except whatever you feel, which might be fear, obligation, gratitude, but probably not." He stopped himself. "Not what?" Hyun-sok's eyes met hers. "Not what I feel when I look at you." The air between them crackled. 3 weeks of proximity, of shared meals and bedtime stories, of watching him learn to braid Kaya's hair and teaching Arden to tie his shoes. It had built something neither of them could name. "And what do you feel?" Jasmine whispered. "Like I found something I lost before I knew I had it." He stood, maintaining careful distance. "Like that night in Kingston wasn't just a debt meeting or a rescue. Like maybe we were supposed to collide. Like maybe Arden and Kaya aren't just heirs, they're proof that some debts get paid in family instead of blood." Jasmine's breath caught. "You can't just..." "I know. Words are cheap. Especially mine." He moved to the window. "So here's what I'm offering. A choice. Real autonomy. You want to go back to Jamaica with the twins? I'll set up security, financial support, and I'll visit on whatever schedule you approve. You want to stay here but maintain separate lives? I'll respect every boundary you set. And what do you want?" "I want..." His voice cracked. "I want to be their daddy. Not their father. Their daddy. The man who teaches them to read and shows up at school plays and learns what makes them laugh. I want to wake up knowing they're safe. I want to stop calculating threats and start calculating birthday parties." "And me?" Jasmine asked quietly. "What do you want from me?" Hyun-sok turned. "Everything. But I'll settle for a chance." Jasmine crossed the room, standing close enough to feel his heat, smell his cologne, see the exhaustion and hope warring in his eyes. "I have conditions," she said. "Name them." First, I will never be your weakness. If we do this, whatever this is, I'm your partner. Not your protected asset. Not your liability. Your equal. Done. Second, the twins keep their autonomy. They're not groomed for empire succession. They're not weapons. They're children who get to choose their own futures. Done. Third, she paused. I want a trial marriage. 3 months. Legal protection for me and the twins, even if it fails. Full rights to leave if this doesn't work. And if I stay, it's because I want to. Not because I'm trapped. Hyun-sok's eyes widened slightly. You want to marry me? I want to test if we can build something real. Not romance novel real. Real. Where you see me exhausted and snapping at the twins and still want to stay. Where I see you handling empire business and don't flinch. Jasmine stepped closer. I want to know if the man who fought through a siege to reach us can also handle grocery shopping and homework battles and all the boring parts of family life. 3 months, he repeated. 3 months. Then we decide if this is real or if we're just trauma bonding. And if it's real, then we build something that lasts. A real family. Not a dynasty. A family. Hyun-sok moved closer, close enough that Jasmine could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. I'll sign anything. Agree to everything. But I have one condition too. What? At the end of 3 months, if you decide to leave, you tell me why. No disappearing at dawn like Kingston. No running. You tell me to my face what I failed at, so I can fix it. Even if it's too late for us. Maybe it's not too late for me to be a better father. Jasmine's throat tightened. Deal. He extended his hand. She took it. And Seoul's most feared crime lord shook hands with a Jamaican single mother on a contract more binding than anything he'd signed in 20 years. The trial marriage documents were drawn up within 48 hours. 3-month term. Full legal rights for Jasmine regardless of outcome. Twins protected under Kim family authority but with maternal veto power. Separate finances with shared household account. Zara officially adopted as Kim family member with full diplomatic protections. The morning they signed, Arden asked, "Does this mean Daddy lives with us now?" "For a while," Jasmine said carefully. "We're trying it out, like when you try new food before deciding if you like it?" Hyun-sok laughed, the first genuine laugh Jasmine had heard from him. "Exactly like that. I like you," Kaya announced, hugging his leg. "You're not scary anymore." "When was I scary?" "When you had blood on your suit. But Mummy cleaned it off and now you're just Daddy." Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Jasmine and Hyun-sok stood on the balcony overlooking Seoul. "You know this is insane," she said. "Completely. We barely know each other. We made children together. We survived a cartel siege. We signed legal documents that terrify my lawyers." He smiled slightly. "Seems like we know the important parts. And if we fail, then we fail having tried." He looked at her. "But I don't think we will. Because you're the most stubborn woman I've ever met, and I'm too broken to accept loss quietly. Between your hurricane strength and my empire resources, I think we might accidentally build something beautiful." Jasmine leaned against the railing. "You're surprisingly optimistic for a crime lord. I'm surprisingly hopeful for a man who thought he'd die alone in a mansion full of enemies." His voice softened. "You did that. You and Arden and Kaya. You walked into my airport terminal and reordered my entire world in under 5 minutes. We're good at disruption. You're good at saving people. You saved me in Kingston. You're saving me again now." Jasmine turned to face him. "This doesn't mean I love you. I know. It doesn't mean I ever will. I know. It just means I'm willing to try. For them. For us. For whatever this becomes." Hyun-sok reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear with surprising gentleness. "That's more than I thought I'd ever get, so I'll take it, and I'll spend 3 months proving you made the right choice. And if you don't prove it, then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you and the twins have everything you need anyway. Because some debts can't be repaid. Some family can't be unchosen." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Seoul's lights blur into constellation patterns. And somewhere in the East Wing, 2 6-year-olds slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, safe, protected, and beginning to understand what family really meant. The 3-month trial had begun. The empire would wait. Tonight, they were just people trying to build something worth fighting for. 2 years later, the Kim Sky estate looked different now. Where tactical teams once patrolled, families with children walked through gardens blooming with hibiscus and cherry blossoms. Where weapons caches had hidden, medical clinics operated free healthcare for refugee families navigating Seoul's immigration systems. The conference rooms that once hosted crime lords now hosted nonprofit board meetings. The Kim Foundation for Maternal Futures operated from the building's west wing, staffed by former syndicate members who'd chosen legal redemption over criminal loyalty. Turns out, people who excel at logistics and international networking make excellent humanitarian coordinators. Jasmine McDonald Kim, she'd kept her name, hyphenated his as compromise, stood in the foundation's main office, reviewing quarterly reports. Her nursing degree diploma hung on the wall earned through online classes, late-night studying, and Hyun-Suk wrangling bedtime duty so she could finish papers. "Mummy!" Arden burst in, now 8 years old and already taller than expected. "Daddy said we can go to the harbor today. There's a ship coming from Jamaica." "Did he now?" Jasmine smiled. "And did Daddy finish his conference call with Tokyo?" He said business can wait. Family is first. Arden repeated it like gospel, because it had become gospel. Hyun-Suk had restructured his entire empire around that principle, delegating ruthlessly, retiring from active operations, transforming the Kim family from crime syndicate to legitimate business foundation. It hadn't been easy. The first year was brutal. Council members who resisted went elsewhere. Allies who couldn't accept the change became former allies. But slowly, methodically, Hyun-Suk had built something new from the bones of something old, an empire of family instead of fear. "Go tell your father I need 10 more minutes," Jasmine said. "Then we'll go." Arden sprinted off, his Korean patois English mix echoing down the hallway. Zara appeared in the doorway, carrying Kaya piggyback. "Girl, your daughter just negotiated a 3 ice cream deal for harbor trip behavior. She's got her father's bargaining skills." "God help us all," Jasmine laughed. Kaya, now 8, with her grandmother's artistic genetics fully activated, carried a sketchbook everywhere. She was drawing the harbor before they'd even arrived, imagining ships she hadn't seen yet. "Auntie Z," Kaya asked, "do you think the ship has my cousins on it?" "Maybe. Your grandma Violet said she's sending a delegation." Jasmine's mother, who'd disowned her when she got pregnant at 21, had reached out 6 months ago. Tearful apologies, requests for forgiveness, desperate desire to meet her grandchildren. Hyun-Suk had handled the negotiations with diplomatic precision. Supervised visits, background checks, gradual trust building. "Family is complicated," he'd told Jasmine, "but sometimes complicated is worth fighting for." Now, Grandma Violet was arriving in Seoul with Jasmine's estranged sister and 2 young cousins. Redemption moved slowly, but it moved. That afternoon, the Kim family, all of them, including Zara, Mira, who'd become honorary auntie, and Kong, who'd become the twins' unofficial bodyguard turned babysitter, stood at the harbor watching a cargo-passenger hybrid ship dock. Hyun-Suk held Jasmine's hand. His dragon tattoo was now complemented by 2 small additions. Arden and Kaya's names in Korean script, written in their own handwriting, inked into his skin permanently. "You nervous?" he asked Jasmine quietly. "Terrified. Your mother's family hurt you badly." "I know. You don't have to forgive them." "I know that too." Jasmine squeezed his hand. "But I want to try. Because our children deserve to know their roots. And because you taught me something these 2 years." "What's that?" "That family isn't just blood. It's choice. And I'm choosing to let them try earning back what they lost." The ship's gangway lowered. Grandma Violet appeared older, frailer, crying before she'd taken 3 steps. Behind her, Jasmine's sister Nicole, looking nervous. And 2 small boys, cousins the twins had never met. Arden and Kaya hid behind Jasmine's legs, suddenly shy. "It's okay," Jasmine whispered. "Mummy's right here." Grandma Violet approached slowly, hands trembling. "Jasmine, baby girl, I'm so sorry." "I know." "Mama." Jasmine's voice cracked. "We'll talk. But first, meet your grandchildren." Kaya peeked out. "You're Grandma Violet?" "Mummy showed us pictures." "Yes, baby. Yes, I am." "Do you like drawing?" "I draw." And just like that, innocence bridged what apologies couldn't. Kaya pulled Grandma Violet toward a bench to show her sketchbook. Arden approached his cousins cautiously, then discovered they all liked soccer. Within 10 minutes, the awkwardness had transformed into something almost normal. Hyun-Suk watched with quiet satisfaction. "You did good." "We did good," Jasmine corrected. "I would have slammed the door in her face 2 years ago. You taught me that people can change, that redemption is possible. You taught me family is worth changing for." Nicole approached hesitantly. "Jas, can we talk?" "Yeah, let's walk." The sisters moved along the harbor wall, years of silence stretching between them. "I was awful to you," Nicole said finally. "When you got pregnant, when you needed family most. I turned my back because Mama said to." "I'm so sorry." Jasmine watched her children play in the distance. "I spent 6 years angry, running, protecting them from everything. including family. But anger is exhausting, and they deserve better than a mother who teaches them that family is only pain. You forgive me? I'm trying to. Ask me again in a year. Jasmine smiled slightly. Forgiveness isn't instant, it's practice. That evening, the entire extended family gathered at the Sky Estate for dinner. The formal dining room had been converted into a casual space. Long tables, mismatched chairs, family-style serving bowls. Grandma Violet sat between the twins, watching them eat with tears streaming down her face. I missed so much. Then don't miss any more, Hyun-suk said simply. You're here now. That's what matters. After dinner, Arden and Kaya disappeared to their room and returned carrying a large drawing collaborative art project they'd worked on for weeks. 4 stick figures under a yellow sun. But this time, more figures added. Auntie Z, Uncle Kong, Auntie Mira, Grandma Violet, cousins. Family, Kaya announced. All of us, Arden added. Hyun-suk took the drawing, and his eyes, those obsidian chip eyes that had once calculated murders, filled with something softer. Thank you, he said quietly. This is the most valuable thing I own. More valuable than your cars? Arden asked skeptically. More valuable than my entire empire. Later that night, after guests had left and the twins finally slept, Jasmine and Hyun-suk stood on their balcony, their shared space now, not his territory. The 3-month trial ended 21 months ago, Hyun-suk observed. I know. You never said if I passed. Jasmine turned to face him. You didn't pass. His expression flickered, hurt, resignation. You exceeded, Jasmine continued softly. You didn't just become their daddy. You became my partner, my friend, the person I trust with everything that matters. Jasmine, that night in Kingston, I saved your life without knowing you. These 2 years, you saved mine by knowing me completely. She stepped closer. You learned my coffee order. You researched Jamaican recipes so the twins wouldn't lose their heritage. You sat through parent-teacher conferences and pediatrician appointments and all the boring parts of family life. You did exactly what you promised. You earned it. Does this mean? It means I love you. The words came easily, finally. It means this trial marriage isn't a trial anymore. It's just marriage. It's just family. It's just us. Hyun-suk pulled her close, and Jasmine let herself lean into his strength, the strength that had fought off cartels and built foundations and learned to braid hair and tie shoes. You saved more than blood that night in Kingston, he whispered into her hair. You saved lineage. You saved legacy. You saved me. And maybe, Jasmine replied, hurricane soft. You saved me right back. They stood together, watching Seoul's lights paint constellation patterns across the sky. And somewhere in the estate, 2 children slept peacefully, dreaming of harbors and family and yellow suns. The empire of fear had fallen. The empire of family had risen. And Jasmine McDonald Kim, survivor, mother, hurricane, nurse, foundation director, an accidental queen of a reformed criminal empire, smiled and said the words she'd promised 2 years ago. Told you. We'll see. Except now, they'd seen. And what they built was worth every risk, every fear, every leap of faith. Family. Finally. Forever. And that's how a one-night stand in Kingston became a dynasty in Seoul. From airport terminals to crime sieges to family reunions, Jasmine and Hyun-suk proved that sometimes the best love stories start with chaos and end with chosen family. If you made it this far, I need your help. My friend bet me I couldn't hit 1,000 subscribers telling stories like this. We're so close. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your favorite moment from this story, and let's prove that good storytelling still matters. And click the next video on your screen because if you loved this story, you'll love what's coming next. Trust me. See you in the next one. Stay wild, stay hopeful, stay family.